record for the hell of it. It is recording. It should have been recording to the cloud anyway, but maybe
Okay.
not. So, all right. You ready, man?
I'm ready to go.
Outstanding. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Evan and Aaron Show. I'm Aaron Gordon.
And I'm Evan Casey. And quite frankly, this will be like our first episode. And we'll hopefully develop and produce a great kind of experience for you guys. And what we're trying to do is just talk our way through, just as two guys, discussing the coronavirus pandemic and how it affects people and the world around us. So I'm excited to do this with you, Aaron.
I am too, man. And, just so you know out there real quick, we're just two guys who like to hang out together at a bar, shoot the shit like a lot of normal people do, read the news, stay informed, and work through ideas together. And we come from different backgrounds and we know people from different backgrounds. So hopefully we can represent not just our points of view, but a variety of ideas and just talk through some stuff to help everybody get through this sort of crazy time right now. So
That's
Evan,
right.
You got something you want to kick off with?
Yeah, let me kick off with this. One of our big things with this podcast is that we wanted to, and Aaron was very, very clear, and I agree with him on this. We definitely want to make this a personal type thing where we look at how this is affecting us, not only as a population, but also in groups, as individuals and things like that. I wanted to start talking about religion, and I wanted to touch on a few things that we're seeing in our country as far as some questionable things that are going on. We just got through with the Easter weekend, and people were celebrating however they celebrate, however you celebrate Easter, whichever way you choose to do that with your beliefs. But Aaron, one of the things that I saw in the news that was just mind-numbing to me is while we're in the midst of this crisis, how there still are people who continue to not heed the warnings, not, take this thing seriously. And believe me, I'm a proponent of faith. Personally, I would acknowledge myself as an agnostic. I come from a former religious background. I spent years as a pastor. But as of right now, I consider myself an agnostic, and I'm fine with whatever people want to celebrate and whatever they want to do. But it just blows my mind when I hear stories about, pastors who keep churches open so that people can come together. And it just doesn't make sense to me that there are still people who are in these type of influential positions who continue to ignore the warnings. It's a dangerous situation, is it not?
It absolutely is. And I think it speaks to a couple different things. One, in a time like this, faith is what gets a lot of people through. Personally, I'm not a religious person. I'll do the cliched. I'm spiritual, so to a certain extent. But I come from a much more universalist, humanistic point of view. But I got plenty of friends who are religious to varying degrees, mostly from similar backgrounds. And I think it's a good thing that this faith exists. It's interesting that happened over Easter. But at the same time, it does us a disservice as educated people, really, in a civil society, to really rely on, I think, some outdated thinking. And I apologize to anybody who might think that that's not fair. But we know that this is an illness. We know this truly exists, and we know some basics as to how to deal with it. And there's tons of parables, about people who said, "Oh, I've got faith," and somebody comes along to help them, and no, I believe in the Lord. And then you end up next to God, and he says, "Hey, I sent you a rowboat, a pastor, and a rabbi, and a helicopter." What are you doing?
Right.
Smart people telling us what to do. So I to your point, I think it's a bit of failure of the leadership of some of these churches. It would be super easy to say, "Hey, we're going to do a Zoom service." Hey, shout out to Zoom real quick. It would be easy to say, "Hey, get on an app and we're going to worship together apart," because that's the smart thing to do. I do think they're endangering their people, and there's a certain overlap with the people who just aren't taking it seriously, who don't believe the science of it in general. And that speaks to a certain brand of anti-intellectualism. Thank you. That's been going on for probably decades now.
Man, I'm telling you, I'm right along with you on this. I spend my time studying history. I'm a historian, and the fact is that faith is at the center, at the key of keeping people together whenever there have been crises, right? I mean, we look at various different examples. You look at the Holocaust. You look at American slavery. I mean, all of those things that we see as a huge crisis, at the center of those things is faith. And so, I think the thing to take away from this, and especially from this past weekend, is I saw so many churches, and I've seen so many churches who were doing the right thing, who were taking meals to people and doing it safely, who were providing drive-through places where healthcare workers and service workers can get food and do that type of stuff. And they're doing things online, and that's awesome. That is absolutely wonderful. I think what it requires, though, it requires religious leaders from all over to call out those who are truly not listening or heeding this warning. I think it's one thing for we as a community who, they may see as not invested in that religion to say, hey, you guys, come on, stop. But it's another thing, I think, to have other leaders within faith to say, in effect, dude, what's going on? Yeah. That's what it's going to take. I mean, the same thing is that you see happening in our federal government, how slow we were to respond to this. You see people leading from the middle, but yet there are people that are still involved in politics. And so because those people who are involved in politics are doing the things that we're lagging right now, we are making progress, but those things that lagged at the beginning, those people in the middle, those governors, those local officials who stepped up and said, look, this is a little more serious than what we think it is, so we're just going to do this. When they did that, people started to sit up and listen. When we got this one narrative starting back in January, that was the only thing we were hearing until we really started to see things. And I think you could transfer that same thing to the religious world as well, is that if other leaders, other pastors, rabbis, imams, and all other leaders step up and say, hey guys, look, this is serious. And so we need to be able to protect our flocks. We need to be able to protect our parishioners and make sure that they have access to faith, but not have to come and access faith.
Absolutely. And I think this also demonstrates my personal faith is in humanity as much as sometimes I feel let down by it. I think during times like this, other people might call it, the spirit getting into them or just another type of faith. But we're seeing humans pull together right now. We're seeing people really, really looking out for each other, looking out for communities, looking out for the people who are really harmed. That's the flip side of the people being a little reckless with their behavior, is that we're seeing, great donations going on. We're seeing people with, money, putting that to use in the right place. I saw where very silently, of course we know about it now, but silently Lady Gaga, has done some tremendous things. And, that's, on the one hand, I'd like to expect it, but on the other, it's still a beautiful thing when you see it. And it does tend to come from the church at times. But sometimes I think the church needs to get nudged.
Yes.
I don't know, who went first, but there was both a social movement for civil rights in the 60s, and there was a faith-based movement for civil rights in the 60s. And when they came together, wow, we did some great things. So it'd be really nice to be able to find that common ground for science to not be beating religion over the head and vice versa.
It was interesting, just the last point, and then I want to hear what you're going to bring to the discussion tonight. The last point about that you made, the civil rights movement, it actually started with a local pastor in Nashville teaching an education class about how to withstand racism while you are nonviolently protesting. So the movement actually started in Nashville, and it was a pastor that did it, but it was in the context of education. And so when education and faith came together, notice I said faith, not religion, faith. Sure. When those two things came together, you then started to see more of a representation of African Americans, because we are complex individuals as human beings. And so we're not just one thing, we're more than one thing. So when you put those things together, it creates this beautiful picture that, you know, humanity and whatever you have faith in, whether your faith is in humanity or it's in a higher being or whatever, when those two things come together, I think it paints a very beautiful picture. So
It really does.
Aaron, it is halftime, my brother.
It is halftime.
Do you want to
get
explain
myself ready to get here?
our tradition here? Or?
It's a tradition that we drink shots when we hang out together.
Yes.
And this shall be no different, as distant as we are. We will not give a superfluous plug to any particular place, but if you know us, you know our favorite watering hole. Shout out to the great folks up there who are still keeping it open, getting some of the best wings in Indy distributed to everybody, and hopefully staying safe, and we getting back to see those people not too far from now. So Evan,
yes,
this is the first one here. Are you ready?
Now, hang on a second, because I hope I don't do a shameless plug here, but you will appreciate my shot glass.
Oh, lovely! You're repping both universes tonight.
Yeah, exactly. See, I got it. Yeah,
I appear backwards to myself, but definitely repping the women's national team.
Absolutely.
By the way, today is April 15th. There either were supposed to be friendlies this week or last week. We're not getting to see them, but they're replaying some great games. So check out the U.S. women's national team.
They are amazing.
Show what they did last summer. So cheers to you, Evan. Cheers
Sláinte,
to
my friend.
all of you out there. Sláinte.
Oh, man.
That's the good stuff.
Okay, now I feel warm. Aaron, tell us what you brought to the table for us tonight, my friend.
Well, you know, we just got done talking about, you know, faith in humanity and how that impacted the civil rights movement, things like that, which I think is a good time to segue into how this has impacted communities of color, communities that are a little bit impoverished, and how this has laid bare a little bit of the inequities in all of our institutions right now. Dr. Fauci gave a great speech the other day. You can look it up on YouTube, or I'm sure whatever your favorite channel is, and you won't have to look too hard. And he really talked about how this has exposed the inequities and inadequacies in a lot of our impoverished communities, our communities that you know, are discriminated against racially across a lot of different boundaries. You know, you can't get tests in some of these places because they just don't have access to them. We see that that's an issue all over the country. So anywhere, you know, you've got people who are already disenfranchised, something like this is going to illustrate that even more. And, you know, a lot of these communities don't even have the basic infrastructure to begin with. What do you think we can do after this is over? Obviously right now we want to get, you know, help to everybody that we possibly can. But once this is over, how do we shine a light on this without it becoming the old tit for tat, you know, social welfare program? I mean, lots of people are being impacted by this. What do you think we can do?
You know, Aaron, I think a couple things. Number one, we have to look at the very structure of healthcare in our country. We just do. I'm not talking social, you know, I'm not talking, you know, universal healthcare yet, although I'll leave that for another show. But I'm not talking just that. I'm just talking, let's just sit down at the table. Let's sit down at the table and have the right people at the table. Let's not just have, you know, those elected officials at the table. Let's have, you know, people who are actually in the communities of color. Let's have those leaders in those communities of color, because what has happened is that we have taken out an entire generation of leaders in communities of color, communities that are underprivileged. We've taken out an entire generation of leaders back in the 60s and 70s, and now we're reaping the repercussions of that. In the fact that there really is no voice for those communities of color out there. And so those people like, you know, like yourself and so many allies who are out there are saying, no, this is wrong. The more people who are willing to speak from the side, and we've talked about this before, my friend, the more people that are willing to speak from the side of privilege, from those sides that are saying, you know, from that side that's saying, you know, look, well, everything is good now. Isn't this stuff, aren't you tired of talking about this stuff? Look, we're way past that. it's folks like you, Aaron, and the folks out there that are watching us that are allies to people that step up and say, no, if anything, this has exposed how disenfranchised the system, quite frankly, is towards people. People aren't just disenfranchised with the system. The system was made to disenfranchise itself from us. And so when you look at that and you sit down at the table and you begin to take those pieces away, that's one thing. But I think the second thing is most important. We have to be willing not to be scared when the blocks of Jenga fall.
Yeah.
We have to be willing to step back and say, you know what, this has presented an opportunity for us to rebuild the entire stack and start over. And so if we are able to reconvene in a responsible way and sit down and talk with communities of color and provide the same type of care that communities of privilege have. And you know what, here's the thing, you know where I live. I feel I live in a community of privilege. And the fact is that I acknowledge that and I'm aware of that. And so it's going to take people from those communities, Black, white, Asian, Native, Hispanic, all of us from those communities of privilege, because now you're talking about a situation of privilege versus non-privilege. It's going to take those people from those situations of privilege to say, no, this isn't right. And we're not going to let it be swept under the rug again. To really make some effectual change in healthcare for communities of color. That's my thought on it, man.
For me, I think it's illustrated that we have to figure out how to take a much more active role in our communities, in politics, if you will. And I don't think I understood what that meant, because I've always felt, I've been an ally, I've always felt like, as the kids would say, woke. That, you know, I'm trying.
Yes.
And I feel like when a particular situation might pop up, I will speak up and I speak my mind on it. But I think there's an awful lot of us who don't know where to begin other than to say, you know, I am an ally, we're friends, we hug it out. And I think everyone would know that. And a lot of people would say that they do that. But we still have these institutional inequalities, you know, not just, there's always going to be haves and haves not. There's always going to be some just social inequities that come about because people are different, but we don't have to institutionalize it. We don't have to reinforce it at the highest levels. And I'd like to think that generationally we're moving beyond that. That said, apparently there's a 13-year-old kid who's been running a Nazi website and is the leader of his local white nationalists and is threatening to blow up government buildings. Wow. So, you know, I'd like to think he got a spotlight shined on him because he's an outlier. But it's hard to know right now with the rhetoric coming from the top down. But back to the point, you know, we've got an opportunity here, absolutely an opportunity to address a lot of things. And to get a little into politics, you know, I know there's an awful lot of people out there who, you know, we're gunning for Bernie in a revolution. And, you know, I have my own feelings on him as to whether or not I liked him. I do like him. But I'm not necessarily certain we need a revolution in that kind of sense. This has been this will be a strange opportunity presented to, you know, whoever is the next president of the United States to truly examine these through this lens right now. You know, people are going to spend the next 5-6 months thinking about this. And no matter who the next person is, we have an opportunity to address these things. Are we going to do this again? And how can we help out the people who are most impacted by this? You know, there's a community in Florida full of millionaires, and all of them have been able to get tested. Now, on the one hand, I'm not surprised by that. That's a bit of America right there. And if I had money and I had a way to secure it, I'd probably be looking for that too.
Sure.
So I don't necessarily blame those people. I blame a system that creates that inequity in the first place. you know?
Yes.
We don't look after the least of us as well as we should. And if there's anything I learned from, you know, what little bit of time I've spent around faith-based people is that is a tenet. We are supposed to be taking care of the least of us.
Absolutely.
And we seem to have gotten away from that. And I don't think it's super political to say that people need help. I don't think that's a Democrat or Republican issue. I'd like to believe it's not a Democrat or Republican issue, that everybody deserves help when they are down. Everybody deserves health care if they are sick. Everybody deserves access in a situation like this. And I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but it does illustrate that we've fallen apart, you know, on a national level. And to those who say they don't like a national, you know, centralized government, hey, you know what? I'm with you. We don't want a king, but at the same time, we're a nation of 50 states spread out far and wide, full of a lot of different people and ideas. And if we don't have at least a little bit of guidance from the top, a little bit of coordination from the top, we're just in competition with each other. We're Europe 200 years ago. And why did we do this grand experiment if we weren't trying to be better than that?
I agree. Absolutely agree with you 100%, my friend. You know, we're coming to the end of our show, and there's a segment I want to do, and my segment is called Questions for Aaron. And it's based on an article, and I'm going to read this article. I'm going to do kind of, you know, your Christy Lee style here. I'm going to read it to you. It's a real quick article, but I just kind of want to get your feedback and your reactions to it. So it's an article from Channel 13 WTHR, and the headline is Maryland police issue, quote, final warning, unquote, for residents to wear pants to check mailbox. Taneytown, Maryland. When was the last time you wore jeans? Many are thinking of comfort first when working from home during the stay-at-home order in place due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, some Maryland residents are getting too comfortable. The Taneytown Police Department in Northern Maryland posted a reminder for its nearly 7,000 residents, one that you'd think should go without saying. Please remember to put your pants on before leaving the house to check your mailbox. You know who you are. This is your final warning, police said in a Facebook post on Tuesday. Taneytown is roughly 50 miles northwest of Baltimore. Aaron, what do you say to that?
Well, I saw the headline and hadn't read the article. It makes me think that, you know, with a little wording there, that maybe there's one or two people who are flaunting this a bit too much. maybe not leaving anything to the imagination. In which case, I don't know. I mean, we've all let the dog out back real quick in the morning right after a shower or something like that. Maybe didn't quite have the towel where it should be. You know. Maybe don't flaunt it, but that said, you know, go to peopleatwalmart.com and you're going to see probably just as crazy stuff going on out there. And if you go to the beach, you're probably going to see just the same. So
there you go.
You know, hopefully, much like our local fire department likes to put out some funny little blurbs locally. Hopefully, Taneytown, Maryland.
Taneytown, Maryland.
All right.
Taneytown, Maryland.
It sounds like Taneytown's making the best of it. The rest the residents are making the best of this.
You know, my theories after this. My theory is this: is that we all, after the quarantine, we all should just book, you know, flights to the beach, and just whatever type of swimsuit you have on, it's okay. I mean, you know, it's just like no shaming, no anything like that.
Don't pack anything. Just take whatever you got on you.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, my brother, you want to close us out?
I do, man. This has been fantastic. We stepped on our lines many times, so this is off the cuff, but this is so much fun. I'm looking forward to keeping this going. I'm looking forward to the crazy shit that we're going to talk about in the next few days, because we have been blessed with the stereotypical Chinese blessing there. May you live in strange times, and by God we do. So
yes.
If you've tuned in, I hope you guys hit subscribe below. I'm hitting all the hot spots when I watch the Try Guys and the Hot Ones wing shows. So I hope I'm doing this right. Subscribe, hit the bell, leave comments, try to be nice, at least constructive. We're just doing this to get us through this and hopefully help you guys get through it as well. We love everybody out there, and we want you all to be safe. So take care.
Hey guys, and if there are relevant topics that you want us to cover as far as the coronavirus pandemic is concerned, please, like Aaron said, hit the bell, hit the button, subscribe, let us know, all that good stuff, and we will research to the point to where, you know, we don't offend any actual researchers. So we're actually standing. We're going to be standing on the shoulders of geniuses. So that's basically what's going to be happening, you know.
That's our goal.
But we will find information for you guys, and we'll try to disseminate that in a light, funny, humorous manner as best as we can. So, my friend, it's been a pleasure.
Cheers. Pleasure.
Yes, sir. All right.
Take care.